Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. Living root bridges, a type of simple suspension bridge formed of living plant roots, are common in the state of Chhattisgarh, Meghalaya, Tamil Nadu, Uttarakhand. The answer to this is Meghalaya. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference in the Hindu article. This article here makes a reference to the root bridges. It also makes a reference to the Umkar river. So remember, Umkar river is a river in the state of Meghalaya. So what is this living root bridge? As the very name denotes, what you have is a living tree. The aerial roots of this particular tree is made use of, and ultimately this can be used as a bridge. So a person would be able to walk on it. The person would be able to move from one area to another area, making use of these aerial roots. So the living root bridge is nothing but a simple suspension bridge formed of living plant roots. Which are these plant roots? The aerial roots of rubber fig trees, which are known as Physis elastica tree. And when you look into this area, you have the Kasi and the Jaintia tribes, and they have mastered the art of growing root bridges across the streams. So remember, we have the living root bridges which are present in the state of Meghalaya. Now let's look into the next practice question. Viologen-unit grafted organic framework recently seen in news is a framework of action to prepare for and mitigate community transmission of COVID-19 outlined by World Health Organization, a method for water purification by removing various toxic organic, inorganic, anionic pollutants from water, a disease modifying therapy for Alzheimer's disease, biosensors for managing the cytokine storm. Which of them is the best description of Viologen-unit grafted organic framework? The answer to this is a method for water purification by removing various toxic, organic, inorganic, and ionic pollutants from water. The answer to this is B. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference of this. So we have Viologen-unit grafted organic framework, and this is basically used for removing the pollutants from the water. There was a systemic study that was conducted by the Indian Institute of Science Education and Research. So they have come up with this particular design which has unique molecular sponge-like material, macro micro porous ionic organic framework which can swiftly clean polluted water by soaking up sinister contaminants. Basically, the material employs amalgamation of electrostatic driven ion exchange combined with nanometer sized macropores and specific binding sites for the targeted pollutants. The size and number of tunable macrospores along with the strong electrostatic interaction of iVOFm can quickly remove the various toxic pollutants from water. So when we speak about iVOFm, it is nothing but Viologen-unit grafted organic framework, and this is used for removing the pollutants from the water. Now let's look into the next practice question. With respect to National Commission for Safai Karamcharis, which of the following statements are incorrect? It is a statutory body of the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. It takes suo motu notice of all such matters that are in relation to the non-implementation of the provisions of Manual Scavengers Act of 2013. Which of the statements are incorrect? Since it is asking for the incorrect statement, the answer to this is 1, which is nothing but it is not a statutory body. So the answer to this would be 1 only, which is nothing but A. Why is it a wrong statement? That is because when you look into the National Commission for Safai Karmacharis, it is now not a statutory body. Once upon a time, it was a statutory body, but currently it is not a statutory body. So when we speak about the National Commission for Safai Karmacharis, this was established back in the year 1993 as per the provisions of the NCSK Act of 1993. Initially, it was updated and it was a statutory body up until 1997, that is 31st of March 1997. Later, the validity of this particular act was extended up until 2002. Thereafter, it was extended up until 2004 as well. And currently, it is not a statutory body, but it continues to be a body through an executive resolution. So, when it comes to the statutory law, it would be passed by the parliament. When it comes to the resolution, it is passed by the executive. So, as of now, it is a non-statutory body which is present under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. What are the functions of it? When we look at the functions, it recommends specific programs of actions to the central government that aim to eliminate inequalities faced by the Safai Karamcharis with respect to status, facilities, and opportunities. It studies, evaluates the implementation of such programs and schemes that are launched for the socio and economic rehabilitation of Safai Karamcharis, and it would be able to do so on a suo motu basis as well. What is the suo motu basis? There need not be any complaint that would be given to this particular commission. Instead, this commission on its own would be able to take up a particular case and see if there are any violations with respect to the Safai Karmacharis. So it takes suo motu notice of such matters that are in relation to the non-implementation of the provisions of the Manual Scavengers Act of 2013. So this basically means that the second statement is right. The first statement is wrong. So the answer to this would be A, because the question is asking for the incorrect statement. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the National Commission for the Safai Karmacharis. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements. The BCS theory explains the superconductivity of only type 1 superconductors and does not explain type 2 superconductors. Due to the low critical magnetic field, type 2 superconductors cannot be used for manufacturing electromagnets used for producing strong magnetic field. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is one only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the BCS theory. So what is this BCS theory? This is one of the theory which basically explains the concept of superconductors. When we speak about superconductors, there are two types of superconductors. One is what is called as type 1 superconductor. The other is what is called as type 2 superconductor. When it comes to the BCS theory, yes, it is able to explain only about the features of the type 1 superconductors and does not explain about type 2 superconductors. So the first statement is right. But when it comes to the second statement, due to low critical magnetic field, type 2 superconductors cannot be used for manufacturing electromagnets used for producing strong magnetic field. This statement is wrong. This particular feature is that of type 1. So what is the difference between type 1 and type 2 superconductors? When it comes to the type 1 superconductors, the material generally loses magnetization suddenly, but when it comes to type 2 superconductors, it happens on a gradual process. So how does it lose the superconductivity? When it comes to type 1, it happens suddenly, abruptly, but when it comes to type 2, it loses magnetization gradually. When it comes to type 1 superconductors, there is only one critical magnetic field. So there is only one critical magnetic field when it comes to type 1 superconductors, but when it comes to type 2 superconductors, they have two magnetic fields, which means they have two critical magnetic fields, lower critical field which happens to be He1, and they also have upper critical field which happens to be He2. So when it comes to type 1 superconductors, there is only one critical magnetic field, but when it comes to type 2 superconductors, what we have is the lower critical field and the upper critical field. When it comes to type 1 superconductors, they are generally pure metals, but when it comes to type 2 superconductors, they are alloys and complex oxides of ceramics. When it comes to the BCS theory, it can explain the superconductivity of type 1 superconductors, but the BCS theory cannot be used to explain the superconductivity of type 2 superconductors. When it comes to type 1 superconductors, they are completely diamagnetic. When it comes to type 2, they are not completely diamagnetic. When it comes to type 1 superconductors, they are called as soft superconductors. When it comes to type 2 superconductors, they are called as the hard superconductors. When it comes to type 1 superconductors, they are low temperature superconductors, but when it comes to type 2, they are high temperature superconductors. And as part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section some of the key examples for type 1 superconductor and type 2 superconductor. Which are these? Please put it on the comment section. Now let's look into the next practice question. MCA 21 is major initiative taken up by the Government of India in which one of the following areas: foreign direct investments in India, attracting international tourists, e-governance, modernization of airports. The answer to this is e-governance. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2007. So what is this MCA 21? This happens to be an e-governance initiative of which ministry? It is the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. All the features of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs can be easily accessed on MCA 21, whereby corporate entities, professionals, citizens of India would be able to easily and securely access the MCA services. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is Aspirational Block Program. Let us try and understand what is this program all about. We have one of the programs initiated by the Government of India called as the Aspirational District Program. What is this Aspirational District Program? There are a number of districts in our country. There are some districts which are able to perform better, but there are other districts as well which are backward in nature. They do not have much of the facilities, infrastructure is not provided, drinking water facilities may not be provided. In comparison to the other forward districts, they comparatively are not doing good when it comes to the economic conditions. So identifying these 112 backward districts so that this can be developed over a period of time is what is called as the Aspirational Districts Program. So basically 112 underdeveloped districts across the length and breadth of the country will be selected, and all the advanced programs will be taken up as part of this particular initiative. So what would happen? This will basically look at three important parameters. What are these three important parameters? One happens to be convergence. What is this convergence program? Let's say for example, we have the central government which has already come up with certain schemes. We also have certain state governments which have already come up with these schemes. These schemes might have an overlapping effect, or some of the people might have not been the beneficiaries of this particular scheme. So convergence basically means that when you get together the center and the state governments, these beneficiaries would be able to seek the benefits from both the schemes. So convergence of schemes between the central government and the state government. The second is with respect to the collaboration. Collaboration of what? Collaboration of central services, state level nodal office services, district collector services. All these will be collaborated, and ultimately this will be given to the people as well. And finally, what we have is a competition in terms of how districts are able to compete with each other, help each other develop over a period of time. So basically we would have the state government which would select these districts. They would identify the strength, the weakness, and over a period of time they would also see how it has progressed with respect to other districts as well. Statistics have been collected on about 49 indicators on 5 core dimensions which include education, financial inclusion, agriculture and water resources, skill development, and basic infrastructure in order to provide an initial benchmark for the program. It is important, however, to note that all dimensions are not considered equally in constructing the composite index for every district, taking cognizance of the nature of development challenges in India. The focus under the program is shifted from outputs to the socio-economic outputs. There is another difference between output and outcome. What is the difference between output and outcome? Let's say for example, we have the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. As part of the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the government has constructed the toilets. So we have a district collector who gives the numbers to the government that they have constructed about 1000 toilets in that particular village or in that particular district. So this is the output. Output basically gives you what is the number of toilets toilets that have been constructed. But what is the outcome? Is water provided to these toilets? Are there cleaning mechanisms that are put in force? Are people using these toilets is the outcome. Only when people are able to use these toilets as part of the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, it is going to become a successful program, and that is what is called as the outcome. So output is basically the numbers, but outcome is the use of this particular program and the welfare scheme. So as we discussed, the core strategy of the program includes convergence, collaboration and competition, and they will also focus on health and nutrition, education, agriculture, water resources, financial inclusion and skill development. And this is broadly in the form of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas or Sabka Vishwas as well. Why are we discussing this? That is because similar to the aspirational districts program, what the government of India has come up with is called as the aspirational block program. This basically means they will identify the backward blocks within a particular district. They will select the blocks which are lagging behind on the various developmental parameters and ultimately improvise on these blocks as well. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi goes on to say that this aspirational block program will help in identification of the blocks which are comparatively backward, and over a period of time they would be developed. According to sources, the program will cover 500 districts across 31 states and union territories initially. Over half of these blocks are in 6 states: Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Jharkhand and West Bengal. And what is the significance? This will lead to holistic development of those areas that require additional assistance, and at the same time the focus area will also be more specific, thus ensuring greater attention to the detail. So they will identify what is the root cause of the backwardness of this particular block and give specific emphasis to the weaker areas in that particular block. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this topic. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.